One of the most confusing aspects I've found so far in my life is that there doesn't seem to be a simple answer for just about anything. There's always a gray area. We want things to be this or that, black or white, yes or no. But in the real world, that's almost never how it works out. It's usually more like this and that, yes and no, but also somehow neither and in between all at the same time. It's all one big paradox. Nothing seems to make sense until today. Welcome to Change Made Easy. Changing your habits, routines, and behaviors is hard. We make it easy. I'm Paul Levitin, and I help anyone who's feeling stuck, stagnant, and frustrated to create positive change that lasts forever. It's that easy. Douglas Horton said, "The art of simplicity is a puzzle of complexity." Life can be complex, it can be a paradox, but it can also be simplified when you start to understand that we are all operating off of the same foundational programming. And once you understand that programming, you can start to reprogram yourself, paradox-free. And that's what today's guest is all about. Thomas M. Jones is a psychotherapist, author, and the creator of The Paradox Process, an innovative technique revolutionizing the management of negative emotions. This method empowers individuals to swiftly shift their mental state, offering profound insights into their challenges. In this conversation, you'll hear why I was so excited to get to talk to Thomas, as he gives actionable tools to help you control your thinking, which will in turn help you control your life. And the best part is, everything he's offering is completely free, and you're able to do it from your home or wherever you're sitting right now. Thomas has even been generous enough to offer a special gift to anyone listening, so make sure you wait till the end of the episode to check that out. In this episode, we cover topics like how you can separate you from your internal dialogue, and why doing so is imperative if you want to reach your goals. We talk about why the words that you choose are so impactful, and why you're holding on to the very thing that's holding you back. I also really enjoyed learning about Thomas's Affirm Clear brain exercise that will help start to move you towards being the highest version of yourself, and you can listen to Thomas take me through that exercise in real time. So to help break out of this paradox, here's my conversation with Thomas Jones. What is the paradox process?
The paradox process. That's a tool that we've cultivated to really deal with the inner dialogue in the mind. It's a tool that you can use to change how you feel in the moment, change how you think in the moment. Okay. It's a way of interacting with your mind in a way that you get to say what it does rather than letting the mind direct you. So it's kind of a command language. We've developed this command language where we direct the mind to do what we want it to do. Okay. As you probably know, the mind will do whatever the hell it wants, and it will take you in directions that maybe you don't want to go. So what we've discovered is that your entire experience is based on what your mind is doing and what it's telling you. And so we interact with that inner dialogue in a way that we clear the negatives and bring out the outcomes and the results that we want.
Okay, super interesting. And I can see how that would be helpful. Could you break down for me, because this is something that we hear a lot about, the inner dialogue and the self-talk, but what does that actually mean? Is it just our thoughts, or is it something deeper than that?
No, it's interesting. I was talking about this the other day, that at the end of the day, you got to look at childhood trauma and how it's created those core beliefs that we have. And those beliefs become the guiding principle to the choices we make in life. They're designed to protect us, but they actually limit us. They limit our perspective about ourselves and about life and about what we're capable of. So really, what is that inner dialogue? It's your belief system asserting itself. But it's almost like electric fences that keep you in and lock you away from certain choices and behaviors.
I like the analogy of the electric fences, and I also like that you said your belief system asserting itself. And as you said, this is stuff that is programmed in us from childhood often.
and these beliefs become our actions, our choices, everything else. So where do we start before we can unravel this stuff, we have to be aware of it, because when it's subconscious, and this is stuff that happens in childhood, this is stuff that a lot of times I would assume people don't even realize they're running this programming. So how do we start to become aware of this?
Yeah. And that's a great point, because I sit across from people all the time and they don't know who they are. They have this set of assumptions based on the beliefs that they've had. And I think the first order of business, you got to recognize that there's a dialogue going on that is not you. Okay. It's been programmed in through the experiences that you had. And I think the biggest leap and the most important leap is recognizing that you're not that inner dialogue. That's not you. And that's a hard sell, by the way. People are listening to that all their lives and identifying with that voice.
I am so pumped to tell you about my partnership with My Body Tutor. My Body Tutor is the world's leading nutrition coaching platform that helps people find their healthy weight and keep it forever through sustainable habit change. If you listen to this show, you know that we do not suffer from a lack of information. Most people know what they need to change. The problem is actually sticking to it long enough to see results. When it comes to diet, exercise, and getting in shape, My Body Tutor solves this problem by giving you customized plans, one-on-one coaching, and daily accountability. As a bonus for you, they are offering $50 off your first month. What makes My Body Tutor so unique is they offer daily accountability with a real human coach. That's someone to check in with you, talk to, plan with, someone who can help you when things are going hard. It's not ChatGPT, it's not some algorithm. This is a real human. I know because I'm one of them. I have been working with My Body Tutor as one of their tutors since 2020. With so much nonsense and misinformation and just bad actors out in the health and wellness space, My Body Tutor is helping people the real way. They are changing lives. I've seen it firsthand, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Check out mybodytutor.com, where you can see hundreds of testimonials and reviews. And remember, listeners of this show get $50 off their first month. Just click the link in the show notes or go to mybodytutor.com and tell them Paul from Change Made Easy sent you in your intake questionnaire, and you'll automatically get a huge discount. On top of that, they offer a money-back, risk-free guarantee. So this is really a no-brainer. And like I said, I really do work for them. So if you've ever wanted to work with me personally, you can even request to have me as your body tutor. How cool would that be? Once again, just say Paul sent you and get $50 off your first month, start with no risk, and see how the power of a coach with daily accountability can literally change your life.
And they have to make the leap to understand, no, that's a programmed voice.
Yeah, and I know that that's challenging for people because I'm sitting here listening and I logically understand what you're saying, but my initial gut reaction is, if that's not me, then A, who is it? And B, who am I?
Exactly. And by the way, but that's the beginning of the adventure. That's the beginning of the excitement. Because for most people, it's actually good news that you're not who you think you are. It's kind of a relief in a way. You're not your fears, you're not your guilt, you're not your worry, you're not your doubt. That's not who you really are. And because we have this process that is very transformational, I get to show people in the moment how those thoughts dissipate and how something replaces them. And that's interesting.
That is very interesting. Could you go a little bit deeper into that piece of it? If you're working with someone and you're just trying to get them to cross that bridge with you, and like you said, it doesn't have to be a scary thing, because if you're not your thoughts, it means that you're not your negative your thoughts, your fears, your anxiety, and all this stuff. What's the first step towards change at that point?
Okay, I'll give you an example. I was working with a woman yesterday who has the absolute conviction that she can't create relationship. All right, absolute conviction. And so we started talking about her beliefs. And I gave her a simple exercise. Tell me everything that you have to believe if that's true. And she came up with, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not pretty, I'm not funny, I'm not personable. And I said, now notice that set of beliefs and picture the actions you would take based on those beliefs. You would avoid people. You wouldn't put yourself out there. You wouldn't show up. You wouldn't dare go after what you want. And so she began to see that these beliefs are limiting. They're in her way, and they're not what she wants. So I turned it around on her. I said, okay, so what would you have to believe if you absolutely knew you could create this wonderful relationship? And then it was a whole different conversation. Then she was like, I'm pretty, I'm smart, I'm charming, I have a lot to offer, I know how to give. And it turned her around completely in a way that she felt empowered and enlivened. So I think when you have that kind of experience, the before and after right in front of you, you're going to know, oh, this is a set of beliefs, but they're not the beliefs I would choose.
So with that example, how important is it to understand where those limiting beliefs come from versus how important is it just to say these beliefs aren't serving me and there are better beliefs that I can have?
Listen, I was a talk therapist for 20 years, and it took me a while to figure out that I'm not really doing them much good. I'm just making people better at their stories. And people were very attached to their story, profoundly attached to it. And the point is, no, you're not that story. And so how important is it to know the origins of it? Not very, okay? We can make a blanket statement that, yeah, it's your childhood trauma. It's the experiences that you've gone through, okay? Can we be done now? Because to get into it more than that, now you're investing in it again.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's just across the board. It's like, yeah, we get it. We're all kind of screwed up from the way we were raised. We've all had trauma. There's no need to compare trauma. Trauma is as impactful to me as your trauma is as impactful to you. And it doesn't matter if my trauma is being bullied on the schoolyard and your trauma is a car accident. They're two very different things, but they represent very similarly in the body to each of us. So, but it's interesting, as you just brought up, you've done the real, quote unquote, real talk therapy, what traditional, I'll say, forms of therapy. And now you've kind of moved away from that. So what is the difference between therapy, maybe psychiatry, and now what you're doing today?
And I have a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists as clients, and they love to try and veer it into their field. But I insist, no. This is not therapy. This is a set of tools that you get to interact with your own mind. I teach people how to do this on their own. I'm not there to kind of guide you at 3 a.m, okay? So this is a set of tools that you can use, and you can take it as far as you want, or you can go as lightly as you want. But it puts tools in people's hands that they get to interact with their own mind and start changing it according to what they want and the pace they can handle. So it isn't traditional therapy in any sense. It isn't that we won't refer to their story or talk about it from time to time, just get a reference point here and there. But that's not what it's about. It's about being present. It's about creating the life that you want to create and getting where you want to go.
I appreciate that distinction a lot. So as we're talking about this, we're obviously dealing with big emotions. And a lot of times when we talk about emotions, people will say like, well, you can't control your emotions. Happiness, sadness, they come like waves. They come and they go and all these types of things. But something I've heard you speak about in the past is being able to manage your emotions. So how can we start to manage these things a little bit better?
First of all, I'm dating myself now, but I'll tell you anyway. I taught primal therapy way back in the day, scream therapy. It's like bedlam. You wouldn't believe the experience that it is. But people are in the throes of the deepest and strongest emotions that they could possibly have. And what's interesting to me is that even in the midst of that exploding emotion, somebody walks in the door and they're out of it and in control again instantly, okay? We like to believe that we don't have control over our emotions. But the reality is we do have control, and we have very good control. And when you practice that muscle called control, you can direct those emotions in order to get the outcomes that you want.
Yeah, thinking of control of as a muscle, I think is a big shift that can really, really help people. And something that I am very keen on that listeners of the show will know is I'm very specific about words and my choice of words and how people use words with myself, with clients. So how do you think that language plays into changing our behaviors, the words that we choose?
Oh, I think they're very important. I think we render the world according to the language that we speak, and even according to what we say to ourselves. That if I articulate that, oh, this is going to be a scary or difficult situation, well, I'm now creating that. Okay, I'm calling that forth. And so I think it's critical to be mindful of how you speak, how you think, and what you choose to think. This is a feeling management system, and it will teach you that you have control over this mind of yours. I know that's a terrible word to say, but it is a reality. You want to get where you want to go. You want to create what you want to create. You must use this muscle in the right way. And people will spend their lives going to the gym every day for an hour and a half and work the body, but ask them to work the mind a little bit, and you get a lot of pushback.
Completely agree. And I think of the mind as a muscle, and like everything else in the body, operates under the principle of if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use your muscles, they will degrade over time. Your bones will deteriorate as you get older because we use them less as we get older. It's much less a factor of you're 60 years old and much more a factor of you haven't worked out since you were 30. That makes us get weaker as we age. And the same can be said with our brain. So do you have any simple tactics, games, tricks that you use for a quote unquote mental exercise?
I have hundreds of them.
You bet.
That's what we teach people. But I'll give you two of them that are very useful. This process started out as a meditation. And so we use keys or key phrases that trigger that meditation. So one of the keys that we use is called Affirm Clear, AFFIRM Clear, Affirm Clear. The exercise I give people is take 60 seconds and describe yourself the way you would like to be in the most positive and aspirational terms, and say Affirm Clear after each sentence, and watch how you feel after 60 seconds. Because what's interesting is that as you do that exercise, it's not as easy as it sounds. It sounds very glib, like I call myself a bunch of things. But when you go after it, you've really got to think about, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? What do I want to look like? And what you're doing is you're interacting with that internal dialogue in a way that you're shifting it and changing it. 60 seconds in the morning, 60 seconds at night, stating who you want to be as already accomplished fact and saying Affirm Clear after each one. I'm brilliant and exciting, Affirm Clear. Everybody loves me, Affirm Clear. I get the most I can out of life, Affirm Clear. You can see that it's aspirational, and yet you will start to live into that dialogue the way you're living into the present.
Okay. So my question would be, what is the reasoning behind specifically Affirm Clear, like those words? And is this the same as just like a mantra or an affirmation? Are all of these things kind of interchangeable at this point, or is there a specific rhyme and reason to everything?
No, it is very specific. Like I said, this started out as a mantra meditation based on the mantra, accept the unacceptable. Everything about this process is about acceptance, transcendence through acceptance. So Affirm Clear is a set of instructions for your mind to follow that will clear the emotional charge from whatever the statement is previous to turning on that key. Okay? So oddly enough, we have negative reactions to even positive statements. If I say I'm the greatest thing in the world, a part of me shrinks at that and has a negative reaction. So if I say Affirm Clear, it'll clear that negative reaction. So every key has a different purpose, but go on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because that is the pushback that I've gotten from other people and myself, quite honestly, when we talk about affirmations, where we have these big things. A lot of times people will teach affirmations to say in the I am, as if I already have these things. I am rich, I am successful, I am whatever you want to be. But then the natural pushback is like, but that doesn't feel good because I'm lying. I'm not actually those things. So
Right.
I appreciate that as kind of a workaround to that. But what I really would love to go back to, you said transcendence through acceptance. I would love if you
Yes.
could elaborate on that a bit, pull on that thread.
Here's what's interesting to me, and it was a discovery that I didn't know I would make when I started working with this process, that, again, it's about acceptance. And so let's say, for instance, that you're accepting every negative thought and feeling that you have about yourself. In accepting it, you clear the emotional charge. It just is. And when it just is, you're not reacting to it anymore. But here's what's interesting. What emerges then is a different version of you that isn't shackled by all those thoughts and feelings, but is actually very powerful, very present, very interactive with the world, and has an agenda of creating what you want to create. So there's a yes person in there that negative dialogue is keeping locked in. And when you release that, then you get to see who somebody really is. And for me, that's the fun, watching somebody kind of become or transform into who they are.
Yeah, I would say I can imagine that's a beautiful thing, but I actually can speak from experience, because in my coaching practice and working with people, I have seen it. I teach very similar, very much the same, accepting what is. Byron Katie teaches loving what is. And I use the term arguing with reality a lot. Anytime we are at odds for what truly is, brings up an inherent discomfort. And when we can accept what is, it is, to me, the most freeing thing. So in your work with people, why is it that we hold on so tightly to the thing that is actually the thing that's holding us back?
Yeah, it's because we have an identity that everything that we've experienced gets incorporated into this is who I am, right? And we create a comfort zone. It's more like a discomfort zone, but we get comfortable with this version of ourselves. And so when you start challenging that version of yourself, that identity starts reacting. Like, wait a second, I don't know about any of this. And so a part of you will push back. You will get resistance when you go toward growth. And that's a couple of things. One, it's a sign that you're in the right workplace. But again, when I talk to people about identity, and I say the best identity to have is an identity of change. Allow yourself to identify with change, and this will give you the resilience and the flexibility to start to grow and let go of old things. People are incredibly locked in to who they think they are, and it's best to loosen that grip.
Yeah, an identity of change. I mean, that's what this whole show is about. That's why I started this podcast, because to me, everything comes down to change. Either you have it, in which case, good on you, or you don't, in which case something has to change. And to me, it's very binary, and most people are still searching for something. And so to me, that means something has to change. But I'd like to get your input on something. So we talked about beliefs and your beliefs driving the behaviors or the actions that we take. But then some people will say, going back to, you can't control your emotion, start with the action, and then the emotion will follow. These are the people like, you just get up, you put your running shoes on, and you just go, and then you'll start enjoying it once you're halfway into the run or something like that. So I look at these things as almost circular. Your beliefs drive your actions drive your beliefs. So where is the place, like, where do you break into that circle to interrupt the cycle?
Yeah. Here's what I would say about that no doubt you can use force to try and put yourself into uncomfortable positions and grow. But beyond a point, force is going to give way. You're not going to have enough strength of will to make all the changes that you need to change. You need a system where you can interact with yourself and evoke change at a pace that you can handle and that you can digest. So I think, yeah, I get it. Get off your ass, go run, do this, do that. Okay, great. That takes care of today. But how about we start looking at the patterns, the reasons why, the investment that you have in not being that, so that we can actually interact with it and open up those beliefs and allow you new freedom and new possibility.
100% agree. You just said the investment that you have in not being that. Could you expand on that a bit?
Yeah. It's funny. Everybody wants to be the best version of themselves. And if you could wave a magic wand, they would say, do me, do me. But the reality is this, that it is work, okay? We didn't get here in a day, and we're not going to unmake all of this in a day. And so I think you've got to have an idea of who you want to be, where you want to go, what you want to create in the world. One of the best ways I motivate people is by asking them, what do you want? What do you want in the world? You want to create love? You want to create business? You want to create a career? What do you want? Because that's going to be enough motivation so that you do invest in changing whatever needs to change in order to get whatever it is that you want. I routinely told people, this is a nice little saying, by the way, that your wants, your desires are the lights that light your path. So don't be afraid to want things and don't be afraid to go after them. But that's what's going to allow you to invest in who you want to be.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of struggle that I've found where, as you just said, I don't think it's bad to want something. Wanting lights the path, desire lights the path. But if you look at something like Buddhism, it's like desire is the thing that leads to all sadness and struggle. But I've come to understand it as the attachment to the
Thank
outcome.
you. That's correct. Because desire is wonderful. Attachment is painful. Okay. And you got to make that distinction that being attached to something means I need it, which means there's something missing in me and it hurts that I don't have it. Wanting something can be pure. I tell people, if you want to manifest anything, you need three things. You need intention, you need burning desire, and you need personal power. And burning desire is a tricky one to cultivate because you want to fill your mind with pictures and images of what it is that you want and remain detached along the way. It's kind of tricky.
Yeah. So that is the trick. The secret sauce kind of goes back to transcendence through acceptance. So how do you teach this or help people? Because the desire, the burning desire, as you said, the more passionately I desire something, naturally, the more attached I will become to it. If I'm putting all my time, my energy, my attention into something. So how do I walk that line without going over the edge?
Well, we can be so articulate with the paradox process that you can clear your attachment and preserve your desire. And it's a very interesting place to be because you sort of matter of fact about it. You still want everything you want, but your shoulders are down, you're light on your feet. You're like, yeah, this is going to be great. This is going to be good.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting place.
Yeah. It sounds, that's basically where we want to get. So I totally understand that as the ultimate challenge. I always say it's like, this stuff is, again, Buddhism, Stoicism. It's all the same stuff that I just call human nature.
What's interesting about a lot of the old philosophies is that they're based on the idea that life is pain and it has to be painful. Okay. Here's where I veer off a little bit. I agree life is pain. I've had plenty of it, but the idea that it has to be painful and that you have to bear up to it, I disagree with entirely. I think pain is only ever a signal that something needs to change. And that if you pay attention to those signals and make the changes you need to, you're not going to be in pain. You're going to go toward what you want. And by the way, I give a free demonstration of this process where I walk somebody through an issue and they see the changes for themselves. And I thought if you and I had time, we can play with that a little bit if you'd like.
Oh yeah, 100%. I always love a real life demonstration.
Yeah, IRL. So in order to do that, do you have an issue that has some emotional charge that you want to see a difference in?
Yeah, sure. I'm always struggling with my I would say work-life balance, but to me it's just work because it's all the same, but like staying productive without overdoing it, with just kind of living the life of an entrepreneur and all the ups and downs that come with it. It's always top of mind.
Okay. So you'd like to strike a better balance.
I'd like to, yeah, make sure that I'm doing enough to get what I need done, and not procrastinating and that kind of thing.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a scale of 0 to 10. The 0 is going to be where I want to get you to, and I'll describe what that is. Let's say the 0 we're going to work on is having absolute confidence that you're going to do everything you need to do in order to get everything done that you want, but in a way that you're absolutely assured that you take care of you and nurture you every step of the way. Is that about where you want to be?
Amazing. Would love that.
As you could be. So how high on that pain scale would you be? How far from that 0 we described?
I would say about a 5.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what's going to happen next. You ready for this? This is going to be fun.
Let's do it.
I'm going to start firing questions and statements at you about the issue. Some of them will be true, some of them won't be true, but they all have an emotional charge.
Okay.
You're going to answer with a 2-word phrase. You're just going to say feeling clear after each sentence. That, by the way, triggers that meditation we talked about. So you ready for this?
Yeah.
Isn't it important for me to know that I work too hard?
Feeling clear.
When am I going to recognize that I keep telling myself I don't work hard enough so that I work harder?
Feeling clear.
When am I going to recognize that I'm driving myself crazy that way?
Feeling clear.
Can I see that nobody's more industrious than me, but I don't think that?
Feeling clear.
When am I going to reframe the reality of me and recognize he's a hard worker?
Feeling clear.
Isn't it important for you to give him the credit that is due?
Feeling clear.
Can I see that he's done everything I've asked him to do, and yet I nag him?
Feeling clear.
What would it be like if I got my foot off his chest and let him up?
Feeling clear.
What would it be like if I started praising him for everything he's come through on, everything he's done?
Feeling clear.
Isn't it true, if I'm honest, I'm amazed at everything he's been able to do?
Feeling clear.
Would it be nice if I gave myself permission to acknowledge all of that?
Feeling clear.
Wouldn't it be a great relief?
Feeling clear.
Isn't it important for you to soften that internal voice and tell it to stop nagging me?
Feeling clear.
What if I turn it into a loving, nurturing, admiring voice instead?
Feeling clear.
When am I going to recognize that I earned that? I deserve that?
Feeling clear.
Is it a time for me to go on a campaign of being kind to me?
Feeling clear.
Okay, that's the first round. What was that like for you?
It's interesting. Yeah. I had different levels of emotional responses to each one. Some of them were like, okay. And then some were like, ooh. And I had to kind of, but just like accepting, feeling clear and just letting it pass through me was, all of it felt good afterwards.
Right. Yeah. So it started out at a 5. Where do you think it'd be now?
Well, I think that I would need, I think I'm going to literally replay these and do that myself. But I think that brings me closer to like a 3 right at the end of that.
Let's do one more round just for the fun of it. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I do this all day.
Yeah. Well, I could tell that's how easy you were just firing them off. I'm like, do you have like a list in front of you or something like that? But it's clear you've done this for a long time.
Yeah, people are funny. They say, are you reading this? No, I'm just intuiting it from everything that you said.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust that if I'm nicer to myself, I'll actually be more productive?
Feeling clear.
Isn't it important for you to be more productive? By yelling at me?
Feeling clear.
Then I've got to work with it, and I don't need any of it.
Feeling clear.
Is it important for you to know that it's time to build a positive internal dialogue?
Feeling clear.
Can I recognize that I've accomplished everything I've set out to do?
Feeling clear.
Can I see that in truth, I'm fucking amazing?
Feeling clear.
When am I going to let myself know that?
Feeling clear.
Is it important for you to know that I'm doing all of this work in order to, yes, get what I want in the world, but impress myself?
Feeling clear.
Can I see that I'm allowed to be impressed?
Feeling clear.
Can I see that I'm allowed to feel good about me?
Feeling clear.
Can I see that I'm allowed to be proud of everything I've done?
Feeling clear.
Can I recognize that the more proud I am, the more I'll do?
Feeling clear.
Can I see that the more proud I am, the better I'll work?
Feeling clear.
Isn't it time for you to own that?
Feeling clear.
Okay.
What's interesting as you're going through that, even when you brought up before Affirm Clear and this feeling clear, I asked you when you brought up Affirm Clear, I was like, what's the actual reasoning behind those words? But like, as I'm saying it, it feels like I'm hitting like enter on the computer. Whereas I've just I've done my own affirmations, or I've listened to recordings of other people doing affirmations, where it's kind of like they all kind of blur together, where it's just this long paragraph, where this
Right.
seemed like bulleted points of like, here's one. Okay. Enter. Okay. Next one. And for some reason, it settled in me more potently, I think, because of that.
It's funny, you hit on it. You are hitting enter on a computer. When we first constructed this process, we based it on the model of a biocomputer. And we realized this is programming. We have to do counter programming. And that's what these keys are. It's counter programming that clears the emotional charge. And if you saw it written out in the script, you would see it's a bunch of if-then propositions that allow you to release the emotion here and there in order to do X, Y, and Z. So it's funny, you nailed it. That's interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate that you taking me through that, and this stuff is very interesting to me as well. So I appreciate the amount of work that you've done in putting this all together. The last few questions are the same questions that I ask every guest. First is, what is the change that you want to see in the world?
I would love for people to have an emotional awareness, an awareness of how the mind actually works. I think this should be taught in kindergarten, how the mind works, how to make it work, and how not to take it so seriously or so personally in a way that you can change everything that needs changing.
So on that point, I agree. I think that the biggest travesty and the biggest thing holding us back as humanity is the fact that we don't understand the inner workings of the brain. And everyone thinks it's like, it's just me. I am broken. I am like this, but it's really just, this is the way the human thing is set up. So I know what you do, and you have tons of offerings and things like that, but you just said this should be taught in kindergarten or in grade school. If you were to give anyone listening chapter 1, day 1 of like just learning to understand yourself, is there a book, a resource, a place? Like, what is the place to start for a parent working with their kid, or just someone who's like, this stuff is so new to me, I just want to dip my toe in?
So interesting. There's a funny little cartoon book by Ken Keyes called Why Aren't You Happy? Right? It's adorable, but it's a real primer on your emotions and how emotion-backed demands create all the unhappiness that you're having. If I were going to start somebody and say, here, read this, and then we'll talk, I think that would be the primer that I would give them.
Amazing. And the last question is the same question that I ask every guest. If you had one action step that listeners can take right now today, as soon as they're done listening to this episode, as soon as they take their headphones out, to start making whatever change they're making in their life just a little bit easier, what would that be?
One action step. Well, this is why we give a free demonstration, right? Come get a demonstration. But barring that, on your own, pick something that you want in your life and examine the beliefs that are stopping you and think about the beliefs that would empower you. Just do that much. And I think you'll get a bird's eye view into the mind and how it's working.
Remember, you can change your life by simply changing the words that you use when you talk to yourself and others. You can let go of the identity that isn't serving you anymore. As Thomas said, you can manifest anything you want if you have intention, a burning desire, and the personal power to do so. And you can double down on all of that by using the Affirm Clear exercise that Thomas outlined. So I encourage you to give that a try today. And if that interests you, check out what Thomas is doing at theparadoxprocess.org. And Thomas has graciously given you a free gift. So click the link in the show notes or go to paradoxprocess.org/gift to download a free PDF of the Paradox Process exercise called The Rant, which is a very powerful way to reframe your mind. Again, I will have that linked directly in the show notes or go check out the website. That is Change Made Easy. If you're working on changing your diet, exercise, or other habits around food and fitness, you have to check out My Body Tutor. My Body Tutor is the world's leading nutrition coaching platform that helps people find their healthy weight and keep it forever through sustainable habit change. And you know, as a listener of this show, that when it comes to creating change, it's all about sustainability and consistency. And when it comes to diet, exercise, and getting in shape, My Body Tutor solves the problem of consistency through one-on-one coaching, customized plans, and daily accountability. And as a bonus for you, they're offering $50 off your first month. But what really makes My Body Tutor so unique is they offer daily accountability with a real human coach. And I know because I'm one of them. I have been working with My Body Tutor since 2020. There's so much misinformation, so much nonsense out there in the health and wellness space, but not with My Body Tutor. My Body Tutor is the real deal. They are changing lives. I've seen it, I've been a part of it, and I'm honored to continue to grow with them. And you don't have to take my word for it. Check out mybodytutor.com, where you will see hundreds of testimonials and reviews. And as a special bonus, for listeners of this show, you will get $50 off your first month. Just click the link in the show notes or go to mybodytutor.com and tell them Paul from Change Made Easy sent you in your intake questionnaire, and you'll automatically get a huge discount. And remember, they offer a money-back, risk-free guarantee, so this is a no-brainer for you. And no joke, I really do work for them. So if you want to work with me personally, ask for Paul as your tutor. Once again, tell them Paul from Change Made Easy sent you for $50 off your first month. Start with no risk and see how the power of a coach with daily accountability can literally change your life.